Welcome to the first of three on-demand webinars focused on how professional services firms can modernize their business. Hello, I'm Mark Sekula with the marketing group at Velosio, a leading partner of Microsoft. The session will focus on how organizations can transform their client experience. As we all know, over the past decade, there have been a significant number of innovations and technologies that have support businesses. These technologies have made a major impact on how project-driven companies operate and interact with their customers and employees. With that, we brought together our experts at Velosio to discuss this area in some detail. We have with us Lance Knepper. Lance serves as our VP of Digital Platform Strategy. He's a leader in modern platform services with a focus on data management, solution architecture, process automation, business insights, and analytics, as well as emerging technologies. Hello, Lance.
Hey, good afternoon.
Additionally, we have with us Rob Urbanowitz, VP of Enterprise Services. Rob leads our professional service clients from strategy to execution in the areas of CRM and ERP, as well as other areas of their business. He works across all types of professional services organizations, from accounting, tax, consulting firms, marketing services, and others. Rob has over 30 years of experience in business applications domain. Hey, Rob.
Hi, Mark. Good to be here.
So, Rob, maybe you can provide our audience your perspective on what professional services firms are all about.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. You know, what I find that's really, first of all, unique about professional services firms is our companies are all about getting skilled resources billed at margin. And that's what separates it from an ordinary company that might be that's manufacturing or distributing parts. But one thing that we're finding in the market is more and more of those companies that historically have not offered services are moving to offer services. We are seeing a movement in just your normal companies starting to have professional services. But for those companies that live and breathe professional services, what I find common in all of our businesses is that we all wake up thinking about utilization and what's our backlog, and thinking about how do I plan for capacity and what do I do for resource planning and forecasting and recruiting and all the things that are needed to run the business, including scheduling and looking at billing rates and figuring out a fixed fee project and how to recognize revenue in those projects. But the bottom line is all of these organizations need to bring together skilled people that are deployed at maximum capacity. It differs a little bit for each firm, but the bottom line is it's all about getting people deployed at billable rates that provide margin.
Well, thanks for that, Rob. That really helps us to position our discussion today. So with that, Lance, maybe you can start off our conversation. Have client expectations really been changed due to the digital transformation age?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I guess just to speak to a minute around digital transformation, right? That's a term that certainly has been out for the past few years. And what we've really seen within our client base is that term has moved from an abstract kind of buzzword topic to really becoming a mainstream set of activities that these organizations need to accomplish in order to stay competitive. I think all companies really need to assess the demand of their clients and really set forth a framework for just managing this digital transformation program. I say program because really it is not something that's just a project. I can't put two people in a room and say, hey, in 3 months, transform us. It's really about coming up with not necessarily new strategies, but really digitizing your products and services that you want to provide for the future of your interactions with your clients. So, I think we've over the years come up with a framework that really focuses around three major areas: people, process, and technology. And that's really, in all the years that I've been working with clients, it's always been a focus around those. But what's new and different is the way that we can solve problems with business. So from a people perspective, maybe it's allowing folks to focus on personal growth and providing tools for their employees that really provide a better experience leveraging that technology as they engage with their clients. I think also we're seeing a lot of companies are going to have to be thinking differently on how they're staffing. Maybe it's bringing in new roles like data stewards, data scientists, cloud architects, things that maybe 2-3 years ago was never something that was in their planning, their staffing planning. And lastly, I think it's really from a people giving them better tools and collaboration that reduces paper, really looks to automate and streamline processes that impact the clients the most. A couple other real quick points around that. Data is really at that crossroads of process and technologies. They need to get a handle on the data which over time, everyone says is a critical aspect, but realistically, it's it's typically undefined, it's underutilized, and really a poorly understood asset. So you really have to come up with some great, strong management programs around data governance to really help you manage those critical data resources. And then lastly, I think as we look at technology, the side of technology, it really should be, and I've always shared with my clients over time that it's an enabler for your business. So ultimately, if you enable bad processes with good technology, you're going to really have just a really bad automated process. So focus on those processes, put the people first, bring in the right solutions that can really delight your three stakeholders around clients, employees, and shareholders. A couple real quick things, and I'm going to also, Rob, I want to get some of your opinions on this, but I think some of the things that we have seen that clients specifically are looking for in professional service is consistent and personalized experiences. Regardless of how they're interacting with whomever in your firm, communication, collaboration, data, knowledge sharing, personalization is important, just like it is in our consumer experiences. As technology is become more accustomed to really seeing content that's important to us, whether it be the news, the stock, the interests, personal interests that I have. Secondly, I think the mobile experience and be able to provide tools that allow them, just like they can with Amazon or scheduling an Uber, easy, simple to use, modern, and personalized. And I think lastly, I think transparency and access to data in real time or near real time for the things that are most important to them as they are working with your organization. From a project-based company, this could mean things like budget, scope, and timing, both on the client side as well as your internal resources. And my last point, I think, is, and we're definitely seeing this more and more, they want companies to be in front of the curve. There's never been a time where more information is available, as it relates to digital technology, and clients expect that their partners not only provide thought leadership, but also action leadership and how they are working through together with that professional, those professional services firms. So Rob, what's your thoughts on this topic?
Yeah, Lance, I'd agree with you on the transparency side. We're seeing more and more of that from our client base, and I'm seeing that with our clients that are in the ProServ market as well. We're talking about the ability to see progress billing, to see past resource workloads, to even have visibility into the future workloads that their projects will entail and the staff that will be assigned to them. So having that complete transparency and being able to collaborate that. We're seeing a lot of companies starting to move toward having digital collaboration. So the collaboration tools with their clients that are available so that when the client and our employees are working together on a project or an initiative, there's complete collaboration and transparency between each other in terms of how the projects and how the workloads are coming together.
Yeah, that's a great point, because I think, I think a lot of that is, as companies have rolled out systems, they've always had their system and the client have their system, but ultimately it's bringing together that one experience for both parties, right? And that one voice of the truth on data and process and progress on the projects.
Yep, absolutely. And you know what, Lance, from a broader perspective, what I'm seeing is that the customers are demanding a different model for how our professional services firms bill our clients and how they ultimately are perceived in value. For instance, we've got a marketing services firm that in the past has always been, bill by hour, which, we're all accustomed to, but they are now moving toward what their customers are asking for, which is pay per lead. So when that happens, now all of a sudden they need to figure out how much time and how much cost does it take for us to generate value for our client, which is a lead in a marketing firm. And then how do you then figure out how the pricing is for that lead and be able to price it out so you can make sure that you continue to get positive margins in those businesses. And similarly with accounting firms, we're seeing accounting firms starting to move their tax practices in particular to value-based billing. So thinking about and moving toward tax savings or tax avoidance. And it's almost like a law firm in a personal injury case. They're billing based on what the outcome is and a percentage of the outcome as opposed to the effort that's needed to get to the outcome. So that takes a whole different discipline in order to be able to price that properly and understand what your costs are before you can even enter into those kind of contracts.
Great. Some really good insight there. And, now that we've discussed, how digital transformation is changing client expectations, how are the professional services firms addressing these expectations? Rob, can you provide your insight into this area?
Yeah, sure, Mark. From what I see firms addressing it at two different levels. You have those firms that on the ground floor at the manager level are having the grassroots efforts to basically fix the problems that they see immediately, particularly with the client experience. And then you have those other firms that are thinking more strategically, like they're in the boardroom thinking about what's the future of our organization going to look like as we deliver professional services and we move to a different billing model and a different approach than what we have had in the past. Those strategic boardroom discussions are the ones that really recognize that their markets and their operations are changing or need to change. And in some industries, what we're seeing is that services that were performed in the past that were manual and were costly are becoming automated. And when that happens, the automation in an organization needs to take place. Otherwise, you in the future will be priced out. And for instance, in accounting firms, we're seeing that happen in the audit departments because audit is becoming more and more of an automated business than it used to be in the past. So those companies that are in the boardroom are thinking strategically about how do I invest in technology that enables transformation and start with a platform and a vision. The opposite side of that are those organizations that are thinking and operating in a grassroots effort. And what I mean there is the managers in the organization that recognize they've got a large pain point. For instance, we need to have a portal for our clients because they are demanding to see their bills online. And that starts to have an interaction with a customer, but that can end up being something that when you have a number of point solutions, you then sort of back yourself into a corner and you haven't been able to enable the entire organization to collaborate and unify your operations. And all the point systems actually separate your customer experience as opposed to make it one unique and positive client experience from start to finish. Lance, what are you seeing?
Yeah, Rob, I got a great example, and it's a client that I've been working with really very heavily over the past 6 months. And this company is a legal research firm, and they're based in the Pacific Northwest, and they manage mock trial research for their law firm clients. And as they approached us and they were looking for different solutions, they had some really key aspects that they were looking to really fulfill with this project. Number one, the ability to modernize project activities. So everything they were doing was very paper driven. Literally hundreds and hundreds of sheets of paper were carried into these projects, including surveys and different ways that they were trying to receive feedback during those projects. So they wanted to provide a better client experience, the ability to have very modern digital tools, allow the employees as well to really have tools that they can improve their data capture during these projects, and really going forward be able to maintain this system themselves. And then that whole digital workplace and tying together things like productivity solutions that they're used to using, things with Microsoft Office as an example, and creating a single experience or single workplace within this project that everyone can collaborate on together, like we talked about earlier. I think as we looked at this and talked to to them as far as the future strategies, it was really around providing them a flexible platform for data capture, leveraging the cloud and actually making that data. So think about long-term for them. I can start to compare projects between projects over time and be able to start to predict based upon a current project and maybe the type of project it is, what the outcome might be. And really, again, driving that client experience, both from an operational perspective, as well as being able to provide better insights on that. So, it's been a really interesting project from that perspective, and bringing together, as I talked earlier, that people, process, and technology aspect to really delight their client in this example.
It's great. That's a good example.
Great. That's all good information on the aspect of how companies are addressing their client expectations through technology. So how does the cloud playing a role, specifically the Microsoft cloud, in more detail? How are you seeing this helping organizations? Maybe Lance, you can take that.
Yeah, I'll definitely start. And I think this is an area that, as I've been in the space for many years around the business application and really helping companies around professional services achieve their own transformation goals, I've never been more excited about the solutions, the platforms, the tools that are at their disposal, and that I get to help them implement on a daily basis. The past few years, there's been a lot of awesome times where you've seen the aha moments when clients see how technology can be implemented faster, more efficiently, but also how we can get to market fast, that time to value much faster. And it started with some big investments Microsoft has made over the years around data centers and accelerating the deployment of these cloud technologies. So what does that mean for an organization like yours? Essentially, whether you've been doing this for 50 years or 50 days, you can rapidly procure, your computer resources, your compute power, those digital services, and be able to connect to things like artificial intelligence, machine learning, if all around Internet of Things, all these great technologies that everyone's talking about, that you actually can build solutions today that leverage them. So I think Microsoft definitely has taken away those the biggest obstacles of getting to digital transformation by making these these services, these business applications, productivity applications, all available to everyone to be able to really drive quickly through that. So one example I wanted to share real quickly that I'm really excited about is something called virtual agents. So this is a platform that's part of what Microsoft calls their Power Platforms series and suite. And so, what's cool about it is, we've all went to a website and we've actually been out looking and maybe shopping for a car or looking for a product, and something pops up, a virtual agent named Sally or Gus, and asking us, what can they do to help surf your website? And typically that's, again, sales or e-commerce websites. That's that technology. The reason it's been difficult is a lot of times those are what they call bots or virtual agents are really hard to create and expensive. There's a major conundrum to be able to build them quickly, normally needing like professional developers, and sometimes that resistance that happens between business folks that know the content and the developers that can help really integrate that into the websites. So really that's really impacted a lot of companies, and what Microsoft did with this solution specifically is they brought together things like natural language processing and artificial intelligence, and they provided tools that allow business users to be able to develop that whole script, that content and that interaction with their customers. And I think the other thing that we've seen is companies, it doesn't have to be sales driven. Okay, you can actually build these agents into, maybe it's your customer portal, your client portal, that they can access information, knowledge bases, FAQs, and interact and really handle that first level of contact with your organization as it relates to things that they're looking for, information they need to find. Also, we've seen it for companies that are actually using it internally for their employees, whether it be HR information, whether it be, again, maybe doing a skills lookup based upon, especially for, in project services, it's important to know your resources. So could you have something that can chat with those individuals and say, hey, based upon this project need, here's the skill, the experience, and the timing I'm needing, and having that virtual agent kind of respond back to them and say, hey, based upon that, here's some recommendations for you for resources. So, there's some great technologies that are happening, all really driven off that Microsoft Cloud Foundation. Rob, what's your thoughts on the cloud and how it's really helping companies?
Yeah, thanks, Lance. I'll tell you from my perspective, what I've been seeing is Microsoft is making significant investments, particularly in the professional services vertical. Microsoft themselves sees phenomenal growth for the services economy. So what they're doing is bringing together the products that they've already created into a more cohesive service offering. And in particularly, they've just made some announcements about project operations, which is focused squarely on the ProServ market and project-oriented companies. What that service and opportunity does for organizations is brings together all the components that Microsoft previously had into one application, if you will. It includes sales, which everyone's familiar with, Microsoft Project, time and expense entry, resource management, scheduling, billing, revenue recognition, and collections, and it's all in one. So it gives organizations an opportunity really to finally have all their information and data in one application, if you will, that allows them to report at a whole different level than they've ever been able to do.
Yeah.
And you combine those functions, sorry, Lance, you combine those functions with the Microsoft Cloud and Azure, and it gives companies the broad ability to scale, to ramp up or ramp down depending on the market trends, and also to execute very fast, to get up and running with speed. And the flexibility there is unsurpassed with the users and the functions that are there to be able to adjust as you move forward with your business. It's just phenomenal. I think Microsoft's well positioned for companies in the future in the professional services vertical.
Yeah, it's interesting, and other companies we're working with, and as we think about some of these emerging technologies, it's important that you start to focus on and have projects and pilot and really learn how these technologies can be used. And it's simple as even automating some processes, maybe on the back office side of your businesses, and bringing together things like artificial intelligence and robotic process automation, workflow and collaboration. And there's, we're seeing scenarios where companies are taking things that are very simple processes from and receiving of an invoice from a vendor, being able to extract information using, very similar to like OCR technology, but using AI to actually pull information, actually leverage workflow then to say, hey, does this need to be moved forward in the process? And then having things like what they call UI flows or robotic process automation that takes that and actually enters that data directly into their legacy system to trigger the payment. And you could also then use tools like collaboration to notify stakeholders when the process is done. So it's simple use cases, Rob, as well as somebody said, and how do we really better service our clients long term?
Yeah, I think top to bottom, Microsoft's a great opportunity for organizations to embrace.
Well, thanks, guys. That's really some good information around the Microsoft Cloud and how it's moving the needle there. As far as closing thoughts, we covered a lot of important information. If you had to boil it down into what's really needed to move forward in transforming the client experience, what would you say are some of the top few areas that organizations need to focus on? Lance, maybe you can provide your thoughts on this.
Yeah. No, it's really important that you got to start really. Again, if you've not been thinking about digital transformation and how can we better improve our client experience, it's got to start with a plan. I think what we've talked to clients about is certainly challenge what you do today and how you do it. This could be your business model, your operating model, and how do we better leverage technologies that are available for us to really enhance those experiences. And don't focus as much on your products and services. Those are important, obviously, but focus on the outcomes that you're looking to drive and leveraging technology. Go back to what I said earlier. It's that enabler for a better client experience. I think a couple other quick things. You got to think and act in a very agile manner. You have to be able to move quickly, accept testing, prototyping, learning, and failing forward. It could be something like implementing machine learning and artificial intelligence. You got to start somewhere, start with a project and plan big, but start small is my recommendation. My last thing, and it certainly is important as we look at data management, because again, in today's world, the data has become so voluminous and so easy to store and track. Manage it as your strategic asset. Put in things that track data, measure initiatives, extract the insights that you want, and be able to provide them to your client base as well as to your internal users to better run the business and make that data to make better decisions. You can bring together. It's not all about AI and the AI just formulating information for you. You got to bring together the AI and the human perspective and be prepared to really pivot your business operations as those demands of your clients change.
Yeah, Lance, this is Rob again. I agree with those contexts that you provided. But, for me, and I think we're on the same page here, the digital revolution is real. Our client demands are changing, and they're changing because they want us as a professional services firm to be more automated. And what we're recognizing is that those firms that are carrying significant costs in their administrative side, where they've got a lot of manual data entry, manual transactions, a lack of information available, are the ones that will end up falling behind. So whether you start at the grassroots or at the boardroom, it's important to address how you engage with your clients, how you automate your business to reduce cost, and in the end, capture higher value margins. And you really need to start thinking about digitizing your operations now rather than waiting, because those that wait are going to be left behind.
Great. Thanks, Lance and Rob, for your insight and bringing it all together with the Microsoft solutions and how it can help organizations. I think the people who have joined today will find this information very insightful, and we look forward to the next session, which is on streamlining operations and projects, and subsequent to that, maximizing consultancy efficiency and performance. So with that, thank you for joining us, and we hope you have a good day.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.